Well, there was an amazing crowd in this room today. There was a lot more people than I expected, and it was like the core Occupy group, and then a huge number of people who just come along for this talk, as far as I can tell. And I wanted to take the opportunity to kind of relate the off-grid movement to the Occupy movement and show how similar they are. I mean, apart from the fact that Occupy is an off-grid movement in the sense that people are living in tents, whether that's in New York or London or any other financial centre. And I wanted to encourage the Occupy people to think about off-grid as an option, as a permanent option for themselves, not just as a sort of temporary choice they were making whilst they took part in this protest, but as actually a lifestyle that they could adopt for the rest of their lives, because it's so much cheaper. It's a way of being independent of the system. You can find yourself a patch of land or somebody's back garden, put up a yurt or something, have a couple of solar panels, and you really are free. You do not have to work other than to get a bit of money for food. And if you've actually got quite a big garden, you can actually grow some food. You're talking about having to work 10 weeks a year instead of 48 weeks a year. That was my kind of basic message, but there were a lot of very interesting questions about how to deal with the system as it is, and people talking about land reform. And land reform is the key to successful off-grid communities, but we're not going to get that yet. And I was saying to people, we need to take this issue about the financial chicanery, we need to kind of continue with that battle, because that's the battle to win before we'll ever get land reform. Well, at the moment, I think most people in this country, in Britain, are living in fear. They're living in fear of losing their jobs. They're living in fear of the system that they rely upon collapsing, even if it's just the supermarket distribution system. There's a huge amount of fear around. And what living off-grid does is it frees you from that fear, because you're no longer dependent upon anybody else or the system for your existence. You suddenly find that your existence is entirely down to your own skill, intelligence and hard work. So by going off-grid, you're removing fear from your life. That's what I think's the best thing about it.
So for me, my experience has been that the closer I've got to people and the environment, the happier I've got, you know, the more interconnected I felt with everything around me, and I've never been happier, never been healthier, never been fitter. I want to live this way of life for the rest of my life. If it didn't make me happier, I wouldn't do it, and I think relationship is key to life.
The Occupy movement in London and New York really inspired me because it was so clearly focused on opposing the financial tricksters who'd actually stolen trillions of pounds from us. And it just so clearly articulated what everybody is feeling. Everybody from the poorest to the richest. Even the wealthy know perfectly well that it's been a vast country. And they articulated it brilliantly, and they did a great PR campaign in this country, in Britain. And they exposed the City of London, and they explained to people who were listening exactly how it works. They talked about this guy, the Remembrancer, who sits behind the Speaker's chair, whose job is to run back to the city should there be any bit of legislation that could in any way affect the interests of the financial community. And they woke people up to so much that's going on that people have been kind of sleepwalking away from.
I would just say that if there's parts of the world you want to see change, you know, if there's things you're not happy about, things that are uncomfortable with you, it doesn't have to be all the same thing. Just come along, see how you can change whatever it is that you're passionate about changing, and you'll definitely find that there's other people looking to change the same things. There's a lot of common denominators at the moment, things we're unhappy with, and the great thing about Occupy is that it brings those people together, and the solutions will create themselves once people get together. But this is a good mechanism for getting those people together, discussing things and hopefully coming up with new answers.